quiet, peaceful little town where every home seemed to hold nothing but faith, love, and calm. Until one night, inside the most cherished house on the street, 2 gunshots rang out, and everything changed forever. An 18-year-old boy, for the sake of his love, took the lives of his girlfriend's parents, simply because they had said no. Hello, and welcome back to my channel, Who Was? My name is Adam. Today we're bringing you a story that sounds like it belongs in a novel, but sadly, it's real. This is the story of David Ludwig and Kara Borden, 2 teenagers so blinded by love that an innocent family's happiness was destroyed forever. If you enjoy true crime stories, make sure to watch till the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so more stories like this keep coming your way. Let's get into it. Our story begins in the state of Missouri, where Michael and Cathryn first met in school. They were classmates, and over time their friendship blossomed into love. Michael was captivated by his bright, radiant classmate, and he tried every way he could to win her attention, helping her with homework, taking her out for walks. Their bond grew so deep that before long, both of them realized they had fallen in love with each other. Sometime later, Michael proposed to Cathryn, and the 2 were married in a beautiful, memorable ceremony. They promised each other they would stand together through every circumstance life threw at them. About 10 years into their marriage, this small family settled in the town of Lititz, Pennsylvania. Lititz had been founded in 1756 by members of the Moravian Church, and most of the people living there belonged to the Amish community. Simple living, minimal use of modern technology, and a deep connection to faith. Michael and Cathryn were both devoutly religious, so choosing Lititz as their home was no accident. For them, this town felt like a sanctuary, a place where they could raise their children close to God, sheltered from the evils of the outside world. Michael taught Sunday school and served within the church community, while for worldly needs, he worked as a manager at a printing company. Cathryn ran the household and supported her husband in his work. As time passed, the family grew to 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. Large families were common in Lititz, since most parents there wanted to shield their children from the hardships of the wider world. The children were homeschooled, and their social circle was mostly limited to church gatherings and religious events. For years, this small, disciplined world that Michael had built continued undisturbed. Faith, order, and obedience shaping the children's upbringing. In the early 2000s, once the older sons reached adulthood and left for university in another city, only 3 children remained at home: Kara, Caitlin, and Daniel. They were the light of their parents' eyes, and neighbors often praised how well they had been raised. Kara, the eldest of the 3, was adored by everyone for her charm and lively spirit. But when she entered her teenage years, this peaceful household felt the first rumblings of a storm. Despite her father's strict rules, Kara joined the local soccer team, started sneaking out to parties, and began doing everything she had once been forbidden from doing. For Michael, this was a heavy blow. Hours of talks and gentle warnings couldn't reach Kara's heart. Arguments broke out at home, and Kara began running away, again and again. This was the moment a new kind of tension entered this religious household, and soon, a new character was about to enter the picture entirely. But this was only the beginning. The real storm was still to come, the moment Kara met someone who would change her life forever. The year was 2005. Kara was just 14 years old when she met 18-year-old David Ludwig. Their meeting didn't happen anywhere ordinary. It happened at a support group for homeschooled teens dealing with the challenges of that lifestyle. David, 4 years older than Kara, had already experienced love and heartbreak before. Kara, on the other hand, was so young that she had never gone through anything like this before. From their very first meeting, there was an odd spark of attraction between them. Both were young, both were emotional, and both were drawn to everything they'd been told they couldn't have. Their friendship deepened quickly. They secretly created social media accounts so they could talk to each other without their parents knowing. Their conversations were long and emotionally intense. They messaged late into the night, using coded language to keep it all hidden. Eventually, messages alone weren't enough. They started sneaking out to meet in person. At first, these were just quiet walks in secluded places, but soon their friendship turned into something more romantic. Kara and David would slip out at night to go to parties together and stay out until morning. Kara's face carried a permanent smile now. She seemed, as people described it, to float rather than walk. At home, Kara suddenly appeared more obedient and well-behaved than before. Michael was relieved, thinking his daughter had finally left her wild phase behind. But the truth was very different. Kara was simply hiding her relationship out of fear of her parents. She knew exactly what their reaction would be, because she had been raised with an entirely different, far stricter view of love and relationships. Kara and David guarded their secret carefully, but as they say, no secret stays hidden forever. One day, needing to share the weight on her heart, Kara confided in her younger sister Cathryn. She showed her David's photo, told her the whole story of how their relationship began, and even admitted they were thinking of running away together. Cathryn, worried for her sister, told their mother Cathryn everything, and that's how the secret finally came to light. The secret was out now, but the real storm hadn't reached the front door yet. That night, Kara was about to come face to face with her mother. One morning, Kara quietly climbed through her bedroom window, sneaking back home from yet another secret date, her face still glowing with happiness. But the moment she stepped into her room, she froze. Her mother Cathryn was sitting on her bed, waiting for her. No words were needed. Everything was already clear. After breakfast, a serious conversation took place. Michael and Cathryn told Kara firmly that she was not to have any contact with David whatsoever. For them, this news was devastating. They had shielded their children from violence, harmful influences, and the darker sides of the world their entire lives, and now something like this was happening in their own home. Michael was so consumed by anger and disappointment that he forbade Kara from even leaving her room that night. But Kara didn't follow the rule. That night, she went to David's house anyway. At 5:30 in the morning, David dropped her back near her home. They had agreed that as soon as Kara made it safely back to her room, she would text him. But the message never came. David called repeatedly and sent messages on social media, but got no reply. An hour later, Kara told him she'd been caught and asked him to come over so her parents could speak with him directly. David arrived right on time. The conversation began with Michael's fury boiling over. He told David bluntly to stay away from his daughter. The Borden family's values were extremely strict. They were completely against any relationship involving their daughter at such a young age. No words of love could move Michael's heart. He warned David that if he ever saw him near Kara again, he would report him to the police for pursuing a minor. The long, emotionally charged conversation eventually ended. Kara was locked back in her room. David got into his old car and drove away, crying. Perhaps for the first time over a girl, or perhaps simply because he felt he hadn't been taken seriously. The separation was hard to bear, but these two teenagers weren't ready to give up, and their next move was about to shake the entire household. This period of separation was unbearable for both David and Kara. Unable to endure the distance, they came up with a plan to deceive everyone around them. They pretended to accept Michael's terms, appearing in public as though their relationship had ended, while secretly continuing to see each other. They played their parts so convincingly that in public, or even at church, they wouldn't so much as greet one another. Kara's parents were satisfied, believing they had successfully steered their daughter away from a serious mistake. But the fire inside David hadn't gone out. In the evenings, he would sit alone reading Shakespeare, imagining himself as Romeo, openly serenading the woman he loved. But like that tragedy, where the feuding families never reconcile, David felt certain that Kara's parents would never accept their relationship. Eventually, David made a decision that would prove catastrophic. He called Kara's house and asked to meet with her father. He wanted to seriously discuss his plans to marry her. On November 13, 2005, David Ludwig arrived at the Borden family home. He told Michael about his love for Kara, about their ongoing relationship, and their intention to get married. Michael's answer was simple and final. That will never happen. But David had come prepared for exactly that response. Consumed by rage and desperation, he pulled out a handgun he had brought with him. This was the moment the story took its darkest, most violent turn, and a once peaceful home fell into permanent silence. What happened next would change every night, every day in this small town forever. David drew his gun and shot Michael as he was walking toward the front door, hitting him from behind. Michael collapsed to the ground. David then went looking for Kara's mother, Cathryn, and shot her as she sat in a chair. In a matter of moments, 2 innocent lives were gone, simply because they had stood firm to protect their daughter and their values. At the time, Kara's 13-year-old sister Caitlin was also in the house. She later told investigators that her parents had argued with David for roughly an hour before it happened, and that she saw David shoot her father. She ran and hid in the bathroom, where she heard a second gunshot, presumably the one that took her mother's life. David then searched the house, calling out for Kara, but couldn't find her. Meanwhile, Kara's 9-year-old brother ran to a neighbor's house for help and called 911 to report what had happened. Unable to find Kara, David got into his car and began to drive away. But a short distance down the road, he spotted Kara running toward him. She got in the car and told him she wanted to get as far away as possible, get married, and start a new life. This raises an unsettling question. Why would a 14-year-old girl flee with the very person who had just committed such brutality, right after witnessing the horrifying aftermath in her own home? Was she in shock? Was she afraid? Or was there some other reason? It's a question that still lingers to this day. Kara was reported missing for 24 hours. When police reviewed surveillance footage, it became clear that Kara hadn't resisted. She had gone with David willingly. Because of this, the kidnapping charge originally filed against David was later dropped. 2 innocent lives were already lost, but the story doesn't end here. What followed was a dangerous manhunt that stretched across 3 states. Police issued an alert immediately. From Pennsylvania to Indiana, law enforcement across multiple states scrambled to track down the young couple. Witnesses reported seeing them heading west in a red Volkswagen Jetta. On Monday morning, authorities received a tip that the car had been spotted parked near a truck stop outside Fort Wayne. Police rushed to the location, but by the time they arrived, the car was gone. A few hours later, state police spotted the vehicle again on Interstate 70 near Belleville, Indiana. The moment David realized police were closing in, he sped up, triggering a dangerous high-speed chase, reaching speeds of 90 to 95 miles per hour on a 2-lane highway. State Trooper David Cooch, who took part in the pursuit, later described Ludwig's driving as recklessly dangerous, noting that multiple accidents occurred during the chase. The story quickly became national news. Television screens across the country showed footage of the 2 teenage fugitives being captured, a boy who had taken the lives of his girlfriend's parents, and the girl he had taken with him. The whole thing played out like something from an action movie, but it was tragically real. Eventually, roughly 28 hours after the killings, David and Kara were apprehended in Indiana. David's car crashed into a tree, bringing the dangerous journey to an end. No charges were filed against Kara, and she was handed over to the care of relatives and church members. David Ludwig was formally arrested on November 14, 2005. After being extradited back to Pennsylvania, he waived his right to fight extradition and confessed to the killings, reportedly telling investigators, "It was a deliberate act. I intended to shoot them if they got in our way, and I did." Now it was time for justice. David Ludwig was about to face the charges that would define the rest of his life. When police searched David's car, they found no weapons, but when they went to his home, they made a startling discovery: 54 firearms. All of these guns belonged to David's father, an experienced hunter who had taught his son how to handle weapons from a young age. Investigators also recovered an 18-minute video from a laptop in David's home, showing him discussing plans for a home invasion targeting another family. Footage even showed him bringing weapons into the house. According to court documents, the plan was abandoned because there were too many cars present at the scene. This revelation suggested that violent tendencies had been forming in David's mind well before that November night. Police classified Kara as a victim in the case. However, David filed court documents claiming that surveillance footage from stores along their escape route would prove Kara wasn't actually abducted. Kara's 13-year-old sister Caitlin told investigators that her parents had argued with David for about an hour before the shooting occurred. A friend of David's, Samuel P. Lohr, told authorities that David and Kara had been in a secret, close relationship involving flirtatious messages and inappropriate exchanges. This part of the story highlights a deeply troubling aspect of the case. An adult forming this kind of relationship with a 14-year-old is always dangerous and wrong, regardless of how the relationship is framed. A neighbor, Vera Zimmerman, who had known the Borden family for years, said that Kara's parents had cut off her internet access once they learned about her relationship with David, a clear sign of their disapproval. But unfortunately, that step came too late, and by then, the situation had already spiraled out of control. Now it was time for justice. David Ludwig would face the courtroom and the charges that would shape the rest of his life. David Ludwig's case didn't take long to resolve. In June 2006, he entered a plea agreement with District Attorney Donald R. Totaro, who had originally been seeking the death penalty. Under the agreement, David pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with several other charges. He was immediately sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences, plus 9.5 to 19 years on the additional charges, and ordered to pay $125,000 in restitution. No charges were ever brought against Kara Borden. The court concluded that Kara had left with David of her own free will. David's attorney stated that during their journey through 3 states, Kara had ample opportunity to escape, but chose not to. Kara herself admitted that she had run after David willingly as he was leaving her house. As a result, the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office declined to file any criminal charges against Kara. Her testimony, the digital trail of messages, and her conduct throughout the investigation all played a role in that decision. At a solemn memorial service held at Lancaster Bible College, Kara mourned her parents alongside her siblings. Neighbors throughout the Borden family's community tied white ribbons to their mailboxes as a mark of respect and remembrance. Church elder George Landis said that the reason behind such a loss is known only to God, adding that Michael and Cathryn were now in a better place. Neighbor Stephanie Mannon noted that because Kara's parents disapproved of the relationship, David and Kara were never officially considered boyfriend and girlfriend. The whole story leaves behind an unsettling question. When David faced opposition, he chose violence as his answer. In later years, David Ludwig appealed his sentence, arguing that a 2012 U.S. Supreme Court ruling barring life sentences for juvenile offenders should apply to his case. However, Judge David Ashworth denied the appeal, ruling that since David was 18 and a half at the time of the killings, he did not qualify for juvenile status. Today, David Ludwig, now in his 30s, remains incarcerated in a Pennsylvania state prison, serving out his sentence. This tragic story's ending wasn't just a legal verdict. It became a lesson for an entire community, one people are still trying to make sense of today. This tragedy shook not only the Borden family, but the entire town of Lititz. This small, peaceful town, where people had come specifically to escape the world's harshness, now found itself the site of a tragedy no one could have imagined. The shock rippled far beyond Lititz, reaching homeschooling communities across the country, where people struggled to understand how such sheltered children could be involved in something so severe. Lancaster County Coroner Gary Kirchner, commenting on the case, said it wasn't a Romeo and Juliet story, it was far worse than that. His words made clear this wasn't some romantic tragedy, but a deliberate, violent crime carried out in the name of love. Many people also questioned whether a strict, deeply religious, protected upbringing could truly shield children from tragedies like this. The Borden family had done everything they could to keep their children away from the world's dangers, yet the tragedy still found its way into their own home. Perhaps open communication, a warm and trusting environment, and age-appropriate, honest conversations would have proven more effective than strict rules alone. This story also teaches us something important. When a relationship is met only with restriction, without explanation or understanding, it can sometimes grow more secretive and dangerous rather than less. David and Kara hid their relationship, lied to those around them, and eventually, all of it spiraled into an unimaginable act of violence. There's another vital lesson here. Violence always breeds more violence. As long as our society continues to see violence as a solution to problems, tragedies like this will keep happening. It's a sobering truth that this kind of thinking sometimes exists even within religious households, even though violence stands in direct opposition to the teachings of faith itself. Now it's time to close this heartbreaking story and to reflect on what we can truly learn from it. So, there you have it, the tragic, true story of David Ludwig and Kara Borden, where love, emotion, and rage combine to destroy a happy family forever. This story reminds us that violence is never the answer to any problem, and that open communication will always be better than silence and hidden relationships. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to Who Was for more true and shocking stories like this one, and let me know in the comments what you thought of this story. I'm Adam. See you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.